Sorry, you guys.
Call to order, adoption of agenda, 2.1 recommendation.
That council adopt the agenda as presented.
Can I get a second? Discussion, all in favor? Adoption of minutes of 3.1 recommendation.
That council adopt the minutes from the regular council meeting held on April 21st, 2021.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Introduction of late items, remuneration 8.6.
I'd like to rescind that. I don't want to discuss it at this time.
You didn't notify corporate that you could have it removed? So it wasn't on the agenda and they didn't print the paper? And then there is, these pictures go with 9.1.
Yeah, that goes with
That's
the,
information,
yeah.
correspondence.
Yeah, correspondence from Korean Liquor.
Okay. And delegation, none. Unfinished business arising from the minutes. New business, 8.1 recommendation.
Unfinished business?
You want to do unfinished business? Do you know
I
the,
do.
you know the name of it?
It's 9.11. And it was a report from the fire department from the April 21st agenda. And we're just waiting for the printout so you can see it.
Okay. You want 9.12? Well, the last one is 9.11. So it's actually 9.12 on the front of the page. Okay. People know because I said 9.11. Okay. Delegations, none. Unfinished business arising from the minutes. New business 8.1 recommendation.
That council receives the email from Jay Simmons for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. So his duplex wants to, the lady that owns his duplex wants to build a garage. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, correct, Your Worship. So the contractor, Mr. Simmons, reached out to us, and apparently it's due to a strata issue. I don't fully understand. I'm not an expert in strata lots by any means. But the request we're getting is that because of a legal issue pertaining to the strata itself, they're looking for a temporary permit to build a garage on the vacant lot right now, and then they'll amalgamate the two lots after the fact.
Do we have a copy of the strata information?
No, we do
So
not.
we know what we're up against?
No, I'm not sure there'd be much on there. I mean, our information is the
But if
lot.
it's legal, we need to know what the strata is, why the strata says no.
Perhaps, but yeah, I can reach out to Mr. Simmons if you want.
Okay. Barb?
I do have an issue with going ahead building the garage without the lot line removed. Once the garage goes up, you know what I mean?
We already had that issue already once, so we don't need another issue like that.
Okay. So then if council's not in favor of the concept in general, then just go ahead and deny the request here now, and we don't have to bring forward this.
Well, you should be able to come forth with stuff, like let us know that this is happening, the lot line's coming out. Basically write a contract up with us.
Well, certainly, Worship, that, you know, our bylaw says that the lots have to be amalgamated, so anything that council says in terms of a variance will come with a time limit to it that, you know, completion of the garage and final building inspection sign off plus 90 days to have the lots amalgamated or something
Well,
like that.
can't we write a contract with him and then he can just go ahead and build it, and and do the necessary things after, or
That's-
after the legal?
That's exactly what he's asking for. If they want to be able to build it now and then deal with the strata paperwork.
But a contract with the village so it gets done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We wouldn't do this on a
On a
handshake.
handshake.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm okay with that.
I mean, ultimately, to meet the requirements of the bylaw, the garage can't be on a standalone lot.
Right.
So we know, yeah, you know, and I'll work with them to come up with an appropriate time frame. Maybe that's 90 days or 120 days after the garage is done
And
to
then maybe
remove
send
the
it
lot
out to
line.
Sue and have Sue do the contract.
Yeah, you could have legal written up for us.
Or,
Is there a time, like, why can't we wait for the lot line to be removed before they build
because
the
it's summer
garage?
and she wants to build it now.
Well, and
Wanna work
that,
with the resident?
that piece I can't answer. That'd be a
Okay.
better question for the contractors to, but you know, I mean, Mr. Simmons reached out to us in with good intentions on this, and then I
We're
believe
gonna work with the
yeah,
residents, and if we have a contract with them, well,
Yeah.
then why not?
I believe he'd follow through and, you know, whatever the contract terms state for sure. So, yeah.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any issues with people that he's reached out to, Jonathan, so, yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Opposed?
Oh, now you're confusing me, Sandy. Okay. 8.2 recommendation.
That council receives the PRRD connectivity report draft V1 for information discussion.
Second. Discussion. So give us a cold notes version on this part, if you went to the meeting.
They're working on draft, different ideas coming across, different approaches for different areas. Nothing's been finalized, it's still in a work in progress.
That's good. And can you tell me what companies they reached out to?
They have reached out but haven't got anything back from some of the major internet
Providers?
providers.
Who did they have on the, home? Doing that delegation? What company was that?
I can't remember the name. It's a company that,
It's not in your notes?
no.
Anything else?
No, it just sounds very expensive. But necessary, it seems everyone needs to be connected.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because Zoom and they want
Exactly,
kids not to go to school.
exactly.
It's a big thing. All in favor? Good report. 8.3 recommendation.
That council received the draft financial statements for approval.
Second,
Discussion? Chris?
Thank you, Your Worship. So just to let council know the procedure here, the auditors forward us the draft financial statements in draft form for review and approval by council. If council is okay with the financial statements as presented, and I reviewed them, of course, I certainly don't see any issues, and definitely happy with the results. The council approves the draft, and then the auditors will appear at the next meeting to present their audit findings in person and answer any questions that council may have about the report.
And we discussed these 3 vehicles? Okay, no.
Oh, we're skipping ahead, Your Worship. Yeah, that's after that's the next one.
No.
So really, all council is doing here by approving the draft financial statements is just giving the green light to the auditors to come in and do the formal presentation.
I make a motion.
go ahead.
I have, how many journal entries have to be changed?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, Your Worship. We do have the list, however, so I can count them up and bring them to you at the next.
Because last year there was only, what, 3?
No, there was, so as far as adjusting journal entries,
Yeah.
no, there was significantly more than that. I'd have to go and counting. It happens every year.
What accounts got changed?
Again, I'd have to do some, like, I can't answer that off the top of my head.
Well, shouldn't council know when council changed? If the accounts have changed,
If the-
why are the adjusted entries? Before we, pass this? Because that's usually in the letter that we get with it, and this says draft, right?
Yeah.
That's what it says, and there's no letter from the accountant that states what our issues were with the village?
There's none, there was no audit from.
Yeah, so I don't think I want to pass it until I see what the adjusting entries are.
Okay.
All in favor? Right,
So that will delay the audit, the final audit by a month, which means.
then send it around email, and then we can do a vote on the email.
I don't like voting on email.
Yeah, and I would agree that for the financial statements.
Why, it's a public meeting, we can vote on it. Sandy?
We have one motion on the floor right now.
Oh, okay, well.
Council received the draft financial statements for approval.
I'm opposed.
So just to clarify, Your Worship, you'd like to review the adjusting entries to,
Well, last year you gave me the adjusting entries, everything we had. This year we don't have that. I was just curious to why would that change?
well, the adjusting entries are an internal matter, the auditor's final report.
It's
is-
usually on
is what it
here.
is. So, yeah, I'm happy to bring them back, if that's what you want.
Okay, but still, no, we haven't voted on this one.
You guys voting on it?
Yeah, I'm in motion.
You're for that to come. You're for the financial plan to get passed,
Approval
approved.
of the draft.
So the
You haven't
auditors,
seen the adjusting entries.
it's just the draft, Your Worship. The auditors could discuss with you, and I'm not in a position to question any of the adjusting entries by the auditors. So bringing them forward for council without the auditors present in the room, I'm certainly not in a position to question the work of the certified auditors.
Yeah, that's fine.
So if, we can bring them back for the audit meeting if you like, for sure. But if council votes now to not approve the drafts until you've seen the list of adjusting journal entries, then that means the audit is not getting approved until in June.
The audit is already done because they've worked in here.
Mm-hmm.
They've already got their findings. It's
Yep.
not hard to have the adjusting entries.
But it's a procedural matter, Your Worship. So the earliest time I can bring the adjusting entries back formally to
We
council.
can have a special meeting to do it, as long as it's 24 hours.
Don't we have a motion on the floor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, 8.4 recommendation?
That council direct administration to purchase the 2022 Chevrolet 3500 as quoted for $52,731 plus applicable taxes.
Can I get a seconder? So this is bought locally, right?
Yeah, I just confirmed that with the Director of Public Works, Your Worship, that would be the local GM dealer in Dawson.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? 8.5 recommendation?
That council received the resolution to support UBCM local government development approvals grant for discussions.
Now a seconder? Discussion? Did you guys figure out already today when you read your agenda? Or do you guys gonna need time to read it to see what?
No, I was just reminding myself.
Barb?
No, I,
Okay, so discussion, do you approve it or you?
Well, I guess if we've already gone through phase one. And this is for development approvals. Okay.
All in favor? Eight point six is canceled, that was the enumeration. 9 correspondence, 9.1 recommendation is the pictures. Oh no, we did your Marlene, what number was yours?
12. That council received the email from Carol. Or received one.
Do you want to discuss it? Can I get a seconder?
second,
Discussion, where are we? 9.1 correspondence.
oh,
So this property is outside the village?
Well, Regional District says no, it's not. Village says yes, it is. And nobody's come to an agreement on
Oh.
whose actual land it is.
Hmm.
This roadway is ours. And if you look at the other pictures, there's stuff thrown over the bank.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I thought that's called dumping,
Yeah,
and I thought that was illegal. But nothing's been done about it, so. And this resident is quite concerned because now it's starting to stink.
it's collapsing.
No, there's garbage.
There was one bag of garbage noted in a picture.
Yeah,
Well, she says it stinks, so.
We noticed no odor, neither myself nor the director of public works when we inspected the site personally.
And you're going down there every day?
Nope.
And you're not inspecting to make sure he's not throwing more garbage over it?
Nope. Because the property that has the debris and the one garbage bag in question is not within the village of Pooskookie boundaries.
So have you notified PRD?
Nope. Private land matter.
No, you can't have garbage. You can't dispose garbage like that on your land. So, since you're director, Bart, of the regional district, you can have a conversation with Sean about how to take part in this. See if he even knows.
one bag of garbage, I will do that, Your Worship.
We were unable to locate that bag of garbage when we went down there.
Reds and for pictures.
If
So obviously you guys should have maybe checked it again.
we would be trespassing on that resident's property outside of village boundaries.
Was she trespassing on his property?
Yes, ma'am. If she stepped on foot to that property to take that photo without that owner's consent, she trespassed on his property.
She couldn't walk around? I see there's a fence here.
So I will bring up the PRRD map. So the information I'm showing council on the screen is from the Peace River Regional District's website, their interactive, publicly issued web map. So this is Peace River Regional District information, not the Village of Pooskookie. The triangle in question is here. That's the last piece of land owned by the Village of Poos. Everything below this line is private property inside the jurisdiction of the Peace River Regional District. The Village of Pooskookie has zero authority to enforce anything on any of those properties that's outside of our boundaries.
I'm never asking that. I'm asking, as a resident of Scoopy, she is. Could you reach out to the neighboring community, which is called PRD,
Mhm.
and ask if they had notified about that
I
garbage?
believe that would be the responsibility of the property owner, Your Worship. She's free to reach out to the PRRD and escalate a complaint to dumping on the PRRD's land. It's outside of my jurisdictional boundaries.
Well, Director Barb will do that.
So,
It is in the regional district, the garbage is, so he's got garbage in his yard as well, does he not?
sorry, I didn't catch that, Your Worship.
The bylaw officer's already been at that location?
I'll have to tread lightly here, the bylaw officer is working on a property maintenance file on a property in that
In
location,
that area?
in that area.
So it might not be, it could be anybody just threw that over the bank.
It very well could be.
Because we had a dishwasher here a couple of years ago, right by the trails.
Yeah.
Remember that?
And the issue it poses for the village, Your Worship, is again, it's outside of our jurisdictional authority. So if the landowner in question has a problem with people putting garbage in there, or an adjacent village of Moose Koopy property owner escalating that to my desk multiple times over 3 years. And to your point, I mean, am I to call the CAO of the regional district and say, hey, there's a single bag of garbage on a piece of private property located within your boundaries, please take action on that?
But there's other stuff in that pictures too.
There's sticks and compostable material, there's one chair or something to that effect. But again, it's a piece of property within the regional district boundaries that owner, as long as they're not dumping toxic material, we don't know, the garbage bag could be full of clothes that the person is hiding for the tree fort and the kids we don't know. Your Worship. Again, right, we're dipping our toes into something
I would
that's
still
not our
have a
sandbox.
conversation with the CAO just to see if she's actually reported it to the regional district.
Again, Your Worship, the CAO of the regional district is extremely busy. I'm not sure his best time is served with, can you investigate a single bag of garbage?
No, you don't have to ask to investigate a single bag of garbage. You just have to ask them if she's called them several times.
I'll call the regional district.
Well, then you know.
Is there any direction with respect to Mrs. Bunker?
Well, nothing we can do if it's on regional district property. But if it's okay, I'll call Sean and I'll ask him. I'm just curious to know if the bylaw officer, she's called the bylaw officer for the regional district, or is she just calling the village? So I want to kind of make sure, because she's been calling the village for 3 years.
Point of order,
Yeah, correct.
Your Worship, we've sanctioned you can't phone the regional district.
Well, I'm asking Chris too,
I'll make the call.
because she's been calling for 3 years. Do you want it to continue to be called?
No, I was hoping for a motion from council directing me to advise the resident that she must take the matter up with the regional district.
I will make that motion.
That's a good one. You should have said that at the very beginning. Thank you.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor? Nine point two recommendation, or does anybody, animal control. So if we have any headway with the one issue there, Chris,
Sorry, which,
the one on the, that we have?
for the bylaw report?
Yeah.
I believe so. Without, disclosing the property address or anything
No, I
to
know.
that effect, but I've actually inspected that property personally over the last couple of days, and it appears that the unpermitted structures that are on there are in the process of being moved. They haven't been moved off of the property yet, but they've certainly been pulled away from the fence. They're sitting on skids, and there's a flat deck trailer in the yard, so I spoke to the bylaw officer today, as a matter of fact, on that, and we're gonna assume that the property owner is trying to comply and move those structures, so we'll see what happens.
Awesome. That's good.
Yeah, I did speak to the bud officer about that, and should the owner comply and move the structures, we recognize that that's no small feat for that owner. Those are well put together buildings, despite the fact that no permits exist. You know, so we intend to issue the owner a thank you letter for working with the municipality.
That's awesome. Awesome, good job. Did you get his body count?
He's still working on that. The price is proving to be quite high, so he's trying to find something that's reasonably priced.
9.2 recommend, oh no, 9.3 recommendation? Do you want to talk about that one?
The council receives a letter of support for the national 3-digit suicide prevention hotline 988 as information.
That's a good idea, but is it here?
I need a second so we can.
Second.
Sorry.
Barb?
Have we inquired if we're going to have this available for our residents?
No.
So I think we need to inquire.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that report references that it's going to be provincial or national or something
It's
to that
national.
effect.
It's like the 222 number. We don't have it. That was, we had a letter on that 222 number too. And we don't get it in the area. Seniors care. Go ahead.
It says here, and staff be directed to send a letter indicating such support to the local MP, MPP, Federal Minister of Health, and CRTC and local area municipalities to indicate support. We'd love to support this, but I think letters should go out to them to say, do we have access to that?
Chris?
Thanks, Your Worship. Along those lines then, if I might maybe recommend just a subtle word changing, Councillor Smith, that the village be directed to issue a letter of support saying we support this on the condition that it's available to Bruce.
Yes.
I'll agree with that.
Rather than
Okay,
answer
with
the
it?
question. Yeah. Okay.
Because I was gonna say that. 9.4 recommendation. So they want support from us, but yet our hospital doesn't have. Can I get a seconder on this?
That council receives a letter to Premier Horgan from town of View Royal regarding the request for authority and training for hospital security staff as information.
Can I get a second? So Northern Health doesn't have security in their hospital. So I think all hospitals across the province should have security guards in them. I think that should be a mandatory request.
Yeah.
You feel
support?
like for prices and things like that going on? Barb?
I support this, but do we have that option in Northern Health?
No, we don't. We just said that.
Yeah, but I'm,
You want to write it in the letter.
yeah.
So you're gonna have to do a motion then?
That was my motion that we replied to support, but would like to inquire the wording.
Yeah, it just, with respect, Councillor Smith, if we're asking a question in the letter, it prompts the recipient to then write back. It's okay for council to say, we support this on the
You
condition.
know, we
that
can
it's
write our own
available."
letter to
Yeah,
Oregon
yeah.
and have them support our letter.
Yeah, we could do.
I think that's a better idea.
Okay.
So,
Motion to that effect.
motion to that effect.
Sure, yes.
Can I get a second on that?
Second.
All in favor? Recommendation, recommendation that council receive a letter from Clearwater as information. Can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion.
This question, is this the same endorsement previous on 9.3?
Mhm. Different town.
Pardon?
It's the same as the first one from Fort St. John. It's just different municipality.
So how come they weren't put together?
Because Clearwater submitted theirs separately.
Could we include our letter that we're going to send in regards to 9.3, a copy to Clearwater?
And this is in DC, right, Sandy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All in favor? Council received an email from NCLGA for information.
Second.
Discussion. Bart?
Question. Convention is Zoom today and tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know previously the mayor had asked to participate. No, okay, just inquiring.
I asked to be in this one.
You asked for approval
For
for the
previous years.
NCLGA.
For previous years.
No, for this year.
For this year.
You asked to be signed.
When did
up
I
for it.
ask?
When it was brought to council.
When was that?
February.
Then, something like that. It was just before the February 20th meeting.
And who's attending on behalf
Nobody's
of?
attending.
Nobody's attending, so we're gonna miss out on information. Wow. Wow, okay. So you said no, Bart? That we miss out on information at the NCLGA?
At that time, that the request that we had to have approval to participate, I did say no. And it's never came out for us to participate. So,
Well, I would be participating if I had all my powers back, so.
I understand that.
And so the village is missing out on information.
Well, if there were other two counselors here, maybe they might participate as well. We just don't know.
So, it's a no. All in favor? I oppose it there, Sandy. 9.7 recommendation that council received a letter from the 2021 census as information.
Second,
Discussion? They're hiring if people are looking for work. Want to let them know that, Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Georgie. It's already underway. I had somebody pop by my house today to go to my kids' away.
Oh, really? Make sure they're wearing the lanyard.
Yeah.
Have a body.
Ask for the badge.
9.8 recommendation. Can I have a second?
second,
Discussion?
City of Kamloops,
Yeah.
I'm getting lost in all this paper.
1.6.
Yes. I think that this is absolutely marvelous.
I think so too.
Yes. Professional news media, yes.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. 9.9, recommendation?
the council received a letter in regards to Day of Action Against Asian Racism as information.
Can I get a seconder?
Second.
Discussion?
I'd like to I'd like to put forth a motion that we send a letter of support that as a municipality, we do not tolerate racism of any kind.
And I'll fully agree on that one. All in favor? 9.10 recommendation?
The council receives a letter to Premier Horgan regarding invasive plants lack funding as information.
And this is from the regional district.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? You should have wrote a letter, yeah. Because this is for the regional district, right? And how much it costs to plant, or thin weeds and. So can I take that off the floor for a sec? And make a letter to Premier Horgan?
Yeah.
Lack of funding, invasion plants, because we have lots of them here in Blue Sweet Peters.
Still need a seconder.
Pardon?
Still need a seconder.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? 9.11. That's a movie?
The council receives a notice from Dawson Creek Chamber of Commerce for information.
Can I get a second? Discussion? All in favor? 9.12, fire department.
Yeah. Second.
Oh, that's first, okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm just shocked that you're even bringing it up.
Well, no, I would love to find out about this. There's the March 2021 fire report on the first responders. And what I wanted to know was the 20 hours of training that the first responders are getting. I was wondering who's paying for that? Is
They
it
do
paid out of budget?
They do it out of their budget.
They do it out of their budget?
Yeah, it says training on the budget.
Okay, so this training, are they paying for it
Out of the budget, yes.
out of budget?
Chris?
Thanks, Your Worship. I can clarify. The answer is yes and no. It depends on the specific training. The fire chief often puts down the amount of time that the volunteers spend training as a lump sum out there without necessarily identifying the hours of we're taking a paid course versus we're just practicing something we've already learned inside the definition of training. So it's possible that that entire 20 hours doesn't necessarily represent courses that they're paying for out of, as the mayor
Well,
suggested.
because they
the
have
training.
Mondays, they have fire practice, and they
Correct.
have training then.
Yeah,
But when they're sent out for training,
Yeah.
it comes out of their budget.
yeah, 100%.
Okay, this was first responders, and when the survey was supposed to be approved by council and went to Facebook, it said that the first responders were paying for all their own training, so I was just wondering who was paying for this training. And if such is the case, then I would really like to know who wrote that. I don't want to know right at this moment, but that the first responders were paying for their own training was put out on Facebook.
Well, there is a couple of them that are paying for it out of their own pocket because that's what they want to do. We can have the chief there one night, come up and he can actually have a conversation with you guys.
Yeah, okay.
Chris?
Just secondary to that too, the chief and I are constantly in discussions about the status of every, budget line item within the fire department. To my knowledge, under his tenure as fire chief, we've never exceeded the training budget. So if there is training that's taking place, it's actually got a cost to it. We're very mindful to ensure that if we're gonna charge it to that GL or to councils, that, it doesn't go over. To the mayor's point, I know in conversations with the chief, the fire association, they often do fundraising drives and stuff for, does sometimes use those funds to pay for particular activities or equipment. Like the example of that, I think, was the washing machine there that they purchased a couple of years ago that didn't actually come out of the village's budget.
Yes.
It came from fundraising that took place.
But that
for the
isn't
fire
training.
department.
No,
No, but he's explaining the fact that they pay for it out of their,
Sometimes, yeah.
out of their,
Out of the
those
association.
coffers that they have on the side.
To your point, your worship, if you guys want more detailed information on whether or not, okay, this $500 course came out of village's budget, association budget, or was maybe donated, because that happens too, that, because of the work they do, companies come to the fire department and say, hey, you guys do great work, we'll just support
Here's a
you.
grant.
Here's
Here's
this
a
free thing, whether it's training or something, whatever that may be. But you guys absolutely can request that the chief come in and provide more detailed information on that if you want.
I have their statement was made that they pay for their own training, and then the contract says that we provide the training.
Depending on what the training is, maybe they're taking a higher level of
I'll never
first
finish
responding.
speaking, I'm sorry. And what we're trying to understand is training, we give them money, why would they pay for their own training if we covered the cost? And we're not talking about them raising money with a washer, dryer, you know what I mean? We're talking certification training that our fire department has to have.
So Chris, like I said, can Blair come over and have this discussion? with us?
Yeah, those are questions that I can't necessarily
Exactly.
answer as finance. Yeah, if council wants sort of specific info on what courses the chief might have been referring to that were paid for, in a particular way, then yeah.
So are we doing a motion to have him, or would you just?
Motion to invite him would be
Okay,
best. Yeah.
I'll do.
I'll
Or does he have to be on the phone, or can he?
No, he can come to us.
second.
All in favor?
And I'll work with him over the next couple of, so just, would that be for the next meeting?
Thanks. Resolutions 9, 11, bylaws 11.1.
The council gives fourth reading and adopts bylaw 1029, 2021 financial plan 2021 to 2025.
Can I get a second? Discussion? All in favor? 11.2 recommendation.
The council gives fourth reading and adopts bylaw 1030, 2021 tax rates 2021.
Can I get a second? Discussion? All in favor? 12, administration reports, 12.1, CAO report. See, Mr. Hardeman back at council now, Chris, are you?
No, not necessarily on this one, Your Worship. If you guys have any specific questions on it, then sure. But yeah, definitely some sort of big ticket items there that we were working on over the last couple of weeks.
Pardon, son?
Right, sorry, and I've actually got two.
Well, you've got it here, that's why I'm
Thank
asking.
you, Mrs. Stokes. Yeah, two items, and I just drew a blank there. Thank you. The Poos Park reopening, we're getting questions from members of the public as to when council would like to open that back up to the public. We
When did we
feel,
open it up last year?
don't recall the date off the top of my head, but this year we feel the roads dried up enough, and then, yeah, there's no issues with opening it back up here in the next couple of weeks if you guys would like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Okay, and then second would be in conversation in the staff meeting today. The cemetery cleanup came up. Staff strongly feel that we should go out to a community consultation and public advisory before we go out to the cemetery and remove personal effects. So something along the lines of a public notice advising everybody that, you know, hey, in 2 weeks on this date, we'll be going into the cemetery. If you have something there that you want to keep, please go get it, place it back after, or something to that effect.
How many
Just to let-
days is this gonna go out? Because Barb wants it cleaned up by Mother's Day.
Yeah, and
So-
that was why, because that's coming this weekend. I need a card, but yeah. Mom, sorry.
He'll be late.
He'll send you
Strike
an
that
email.
from the record. Yeah. Yeah, so we can do it, you know, and
But
we've
some people
got,
don't even live there.
well.
So what, are we gonna have staff go through every single person's thing and send a letter?
No, certainly not. Just a general publication, maybe a mail drop, Facebook, you know, that the village is gonna undertake a cemetery cleanup, that we're looking for specific things, you know, really
Yeah.
sun faded or obviously sort of derelict, we'll come up with some better wording, but, you know, items and personal effects, and we'll be removing those in a cemetery cleanup. If there's anything that's near and dear to you, contact us, let us know, or go there and pick it up.
Yeah, Dawson just did that public notice as well.
Did they? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, and that was a good suggestion, so,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, just, we're, as you mentioned in the last meeting, is
Sensitive.
Yeah, sensitive.
Very, very sensitive.
Yeah. So with that in mind, we'd like to maybe do that next week and then advertise it for the following week. And then that gives it a week to be out there, and we can then do it. So we should have it done by the next council meeting.
Barb, you had something to say?
No, that's fine.
All in favor?
Yeah, thanks.
How are we making out with the lagoon?
The draining is going extremely well, although it's not inexpensive. So we're you know, accumulating daily costs on that. But we should have the final large pond drained ahead of schedule, because we've sharpened up the language with the ministry. And it turns out that, you know, previously we were operating on the premise that our 2,300 cubic meters had to be discharged sort of equally throughout the course of an entire day. In the course of this discussion, we found out that we can open the tap wide open, and as long as we stop at 2,299 cubic meters, if we've got an 8-inch pump and we can discharge that in 2 hours, we're good to go. So we're trying to do that to minimize costs. So literally the pumps are open, you know, to
Did
the...
we buy pumps or?
No, and we couldn't. So, but I think I
So do
mentioned...
you need a motion to go past the $15,000?
No, because the sewer fund has a you know, a healthy sort of emergency budget in it for things that bubble up. We're pretty sure we should be able to stay within that.
Let's do that.
Yeah. To answer your question about the pumps, that was my first hope. I think I talked to you guys about it in the last meeting, that, well, we're throwing good money after bad here because we just fixed this thing 2 years ago and it's already moved and shifted and everything we spent is broken. You know, there's no warranty on it because it wasn't a failure of the work, it was the riverbank moved and took the pipe along with it. So, you know, we hardly can hold the contractor responsible for that.
So you talked to Urban Systems about cementing it?
Well, no, not necessarily about cementing it. There's a couple of different options that they're discussing right now, either doing some type of really heavy-duty bank stabilization there.
Which should have been done in the first place.
Well, perhaps, you know, it's an awkward spot to discharge in the first place, right? So there's a little bit of a curve there, so the water is brushing up against that bank, and it's a naturally unstable slope, you know, that are discharge pipe. So my hope was that at first, well then forget it. you know, we can easily buy a portable pump, very similar to what we've got going down there. In fact, we'd asked that contractor prior to me getting to know, hey, can we just buy one of these things off you? And every year we'll drive it down there in the morning, turn the tap on, staff will go down in the afternoon, drive it back, and we'll repeat that process for a month and a half, no problem. The doctor, yeah, Dr. Joanne Quirmy, who's sort of our lead consultant on this with Urban Systems, said that although conventional wisdom would say that's a great idea, the ministry's literature says it has to be built in the ground, permanent infrastructure to discharge. And they don't really pay any mind to what that ends up costing the municipality at the end of the day, whether that makes financial sense or not. We just gotta build it.
Did Bob send you the green information on sewers and stuff? Because he was gonna email it.
I'm not sure I've seen that, Your Worship. I'll take another look in email. I did get an email from Edward today regarding some potential grant funding for that project, so we're
But
posting. looking
if
for
he
that.
can get grants for the green, right, we can.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, so.
Because they built, where was that one built down on the Island Bar? Down in, wasn't it, Cash Creek? Remember they were sitting at our table at UBCM and they were talking about that?
I think so, but we need something permanent
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and the struggle we're facing with that is the engineering, the studies, and the permits we need to be able to work inside the riverbank and dig and excavate and do all that stuff is astronomical. And then the second phase of that is we've got to essentially build something that's you know, Mother Nature proof, and that'll,
Well,
you know.
these green sewers are supposed to be the cat's meow. So.
Well, and it'd be different in our case because we're not, that's our final settling pond, right? And so the water in there is essentially not much more,
Well, people
doesn't have much more organic material than the average stream, which is why
Well, people
we're
drink
allowed,
it, right?
yeah, which is why we're allowed to release it. So, you know, no matter what, we've got to come up with something to drain that pond, because if we don't drain it every year, it just goes over the bank, and that's a serious environmental issue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've been told, do not let that happen in any way.
is there something that we can do to build new or more stable away from the river and have it sort of like do it properly?
Yeah, good question, Bert. That's part of the scope of work that, you know, is the location where the pipe comes out right now the best spot for it? You know, can we move it downriver, upriver, you know, and like I say,
Or
part of the
don't
issue
you want it
is,
at the peak of the, at the very beginning of the other pond? Isn't that where they want it? So it's metered? So they can meter it and know?
well, it can be metered from wherever, right? We just got to attach a meter to the discharge pipe. So what we're going to try and find, and that's part of, what do they call that? A bank a bank stability assessment. So they're literally going to send a geotechnical engineer in there to put sensors in the ground and evaluate the stability of the bank along the entire front of the lagoon to determine, okay, well, this part moves a little bit, that part moves a lot. Whoops, this actually isn't moving. That's
You
where
can
we're
look
going.
at the crack on the bank and say, oh. what's
Well,
that?
and that's part of it. You know, unfortunately, the Poos River is doing what rivers do and eroding, you know, that there's nobody's at fault. It's just naturally occurring erosion.
The swimming pit thing down here
Yeah.
never used to exist. Everybody used to drive down
Yeah.
to Big Bend.
Yeah.
And it was a big bend.
Yeah.
And you could drive down there, high grade road, sandy beach. And then a year later it changed. You remember that?
Yeah.
It just completely changed. And it was just like a snake. It's like, wow.
And so, I mean, even in all of this, I won't promise council that if we end up having to invest $250,000 into this by the time it's all said and done between the studies and the planning.
This is infrastructure, so there's lots of grants out there for infrastructure.
There
And
is.
if we have to pay
Yeah.
lots of money on that, there's something wrong.
Not necessarily, Your Worship, because the struggle we're in right now is, again, this is an emergency thing. We're already starting the project, so we're gonna have to find a grant agency that's willing to work with us post,
I'm sure there's federal grants.
perhaps. So that's, yeah, we've
Because
got
Bob
the,
did say,
yeah, this is outside of my realm of area of expertise, so we've literally got Urban trying to find grants that will match to what they know the scope of work has to be for this project. So hopefully they can, if they can't come up with something, there's no chance that I would have been able to find something that they didn't catch, because they know household, so.
Okay, no.
But what I was saying with that is, you know, the unfortunate reality, I think it is I can't promise council that, you know, after a significant investment, whether supported by a grant or not, that 5, 7, 10 years down the road, we'll find ourselves right back in the same.
Have we looked at other options?
That was part of my conversation with Dr. Cornby to go, you know, and so I can open that discussion again, but she was firm that it has to be pipes in the ground somehow.
But
infrastructure.
I'm talking about redoing our system.
The
That's
system,
different,
Yeah.
a whole
Well, we
different.
did have that done a couple of years ago, and they said it would be good if we built all those houses up in the subdivision.
so that's the other piece to all of this. In both the last 2 years, and possibly a third over, you know, just my time in Boost, that final settling pond reaches within 6 inches of being over the bank. And so I've had that conversation with the lead engineer too, and let him know. So what that means though, is that we're hitting the limit of the capacity. And so they're suggesting a couple of things are possible. We can build the banks up, we can excavate down, and they said that might be the preferred way because there is material that settles, that settles and eventually builds up over time, like any pond, right? So we did have a desludging thing done a couple of years ago, but I don't remember off the top of my head how much of that was the final pond. I think it was the first 2 that ended up getting desludged because they're substantially smaller and they're the ones that the original flow, so they fill up faster, right? There's more
But is
material.
that a green method?
It, theoretically, yes, right? Because we're basically reclaiming sewer water through that process. So, you know, in sort of the loose definition of is it green? Yeah, you know, we're returning water that was used and contaminated through household use back to its natural environment, clean, settled, you know, and within acceptable standards. So it is, yeah, it's green to that. But, yeah, this is going to be one that you know, I don't doubt for a second that I'm going to be coming back to you guys multiple times throughout the
I
year
think
as the
in
goalpost
15, I
moves.
think if you look back in the records, I think about 2014, 2015, there
Yes.
was extensive work done down there.
Okay.
It
And I
was
found,
after 15.
No.
Oh, maybe no, you're right.
I started in August of 16, so if it was 15,
no, I think
maybe-
there was extensive, work done down there in 14 or 15.
Were they dug and sludged?
Yeah.
in the big pond.
And I'm not sure if it was the big pond
I
or the
think
small
it was
pond.
the
It was one or the
Small
other,
ones
but
again,
I would check and see what kind of work that was done, and if that's the exact same work,
Yeah.
then I think we need to look at other options.
You know, the desludging piece is also one of those that it's not a one-time deal, right? Because you desludge it, but then the function of those ponds is to have sewer water go into them and then allow whatever's trapped inside the sewer water to settle,
I don't
and then
think
the water, the cleaner water moves to the next pond.
No,
So-
I don't think that was the
So-
issue.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, and but just, you know, that's why there's the 3 of them, because really, realistically, what happens, it goes into the first one, all the real heavy stuff drops, then the cleaner water flows into number 2. It sits there a little longer, material drops and settles, that water goes into number 3, all the fine particles settle in number 3 over an entire year, and then we test the water a couple of times, and then once it's within acceptable standards, boom, into the river it goes, because it meets the standards, and then the process.
But there's
repeats.
gonna be a sewer plant or something that we can put down there. But
If
I
we
mean,
think
can-
this pipe
We
need
can
work.
check out the grants and stuff like that for it, Chris.
The struggle we're gonna face going down that road is the infrastructure grants will support us potentially with the infrastructure if we decide to go there. The second we're talking sewer plant, now we're staff and training and new standards and somebody's gotta run the thing. So, the reason small municipalities have this system of lagoons is because going to a plant that mechanically washes the water and filters it is astronomically expensive.
Well, they built one in Summer, and they have Corex comes and tests the water and runs it, and it's a guy in the morning.
Yeah.
And he comes and he checks it.
They
Yeah.
show their tax base.
So yeah, I think Salmon Arms 20,000 people. If
No,
I'm
not
mistaken.
in our little community was only like 97 trailers. And the developer built this big huge plant. And he
Mhm.
built it all on grants.
Yeah, and he may have been compelled to do that by the municipality, right? That's one of those things. that
It's not a municipality.
Somebody, that trailer court's in somebody's municipal boundaries.
The regional district.
Shuswap Regional District,
Yeah.
yeah, CSRD, yeah, County of Shuswap Regional District.
But
We can look into it, but my gut's telling me to try and go from a relatively low cost, settling pond system to a mechanical thing that treats the water is gonna be well into the seven figures. And
But if
easy,
the town's growing, we've got subdivisions going, like, we should look at that option.
we could,
Right? Instead of all these houses being built and then go, oh my God.
so I can, yeah,
Plan ahead.
I'll have a chat with her.
Can't move
and-
into your new house because our sewer can't.
Right.
Right.
Well, it won't be that, somebody can move in, but what'll happen is eventually, whoops, we'll spill over, and then I gotta report to the ministry that we've had a sewer breach, or a lagoon breach, and that's an absolute pile of paperwork we want to avoid as much as possible. Yeah.
So if it's 6 inches away and Urban Systems told us that that subdivision would be good,
No, I do recall Urban Systems saying in one of those conversations that, once we get development proposal up there, depending on the number of houses, part of their process will be to evaluate the existing infrastructure and see if it still fits. So,
so if we did build that subdivision and they tell us that the infrastructure and everything doesn't fit,
well, and that's it.
then we have to be looking at other options. So
Yeah, bigger ponds, perhaps a mechanical system.
So maybe we should do that now before,
Yeah,
check out the pricing and
Yeah.
see, maybe
I'll-
we should start
Yeah.
doing it.
So I'll ask the lead engineer on it that, if our community wanted to move to a mechanical sewer treatment plant, for somebody our size and our volume, what are we looking at, cost to build it, and how many staff are we gonna need to run it long term, and then, it'll be
And I
sort of,
wouldn't hurt those options to, because if it happened in 14, 15, and we're gonna have to pay the same amount of money every year, we might as well start looking at other options.
yeah.
Just throwing $100,000 out every year,
Then
that might as well be a frickin' payment towards a plant,
I'm afraid.
than just throwing it away.
100 might not even cut it. I have
Well.
a funny, just the little repair we did last year, in 2019, there was like 37,000. And we only had a crew on site for 4 or 5 days, and there was
Then we
some,
spent 192,000 or something to change that pipe, right?
that was our meter, yeah.
Our meter,
Yeah,
yeah, it
that
fell
was-
out, that was the,
Yeah, that was 92. And that was part of that goal, to get metered sense of, okay, so we knew what was going out, because we're required by our permit to meter the final water going out into the river, but we really didn't have a sense of how much was actually coming in. And because of those ponds and where it's located, not all of that water in the final pond is actually trickled down settling water, rainwater, snow melt.
so was the
accumulates in
national
there.
sewer guy that did that?
Yeah, that was Nappet Industries. They're one of the most well-respected water and sewer contractors in the region. So, yeah, and that's been working flawless. I can't tell you the measurements we're getting off the
Yeah,
top
I
of
don't
my head. No. But really, and that was to try and help the engineers understand, well, okay, this is the volume in the pond. How much of that is actually coming from the town? And how much of that is coming from natural surface water runoff that's making its way to our pond?
And
So,
it's sitting right below, slope, so the
yeah.
chances are.
yeah, it's in the low spot right next to the river,
And
so.
if we have lots and lots of snow, 6 inches, I've seen, growing up, I've seen dugouts fill up because of runoff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that there's options that we need to look at.
That was sort of the comment to me from the director at this spring when we started he says if we'd have got 4 or 5 days of heavy, solid, spring rain, we'd have had a problem.
Mm.
So, yeah.
It was touch and go and we flooded.
Yeah,
It was really, really touching.
Yeah, I remember Adam giving me an update on that we almost lost it there for a
Yeah.
minute.
But it had a few gray hairs.
Yeah, nothing makes you nervous like contaminating a fish-bearing stream these days. So, but yeah, I'll definitely have that conversation with the engineers and just see if they can throw out some numbers off the top of their head. And, I mean, the first question will be, have you guys ever seen this for a community our size? And if so, who can I call and get some information on how it's working? You know, what's the maintenance costs? How often do the filters and the pumps have to be changed? Do you need a specialized plumber to fix this thing when it breaks down? All of those costs and logistics that play into operating a facility like that. So, but yeah, I'll ask some questions.
That would be good, because if we're just keep throwing money out every year for fix. Locked out of the BCEID? Why are you locked out?
Sorry?
You got locked out of the BCEID?
Oh,
You didn't change it?
as far as that outstanding LGDE report there, yeah, so to access that report, there's something that us as municipal officers have called a BCEID, and it's a unique ID number that allows us to get onto the government's reporting webpage and make alterations and stuff. So long story short, I got locked out of it for darn near 2 weeks there. It's not the
So
first
when is it due?
It's not the first time it's happened. It's been due for most of 2020 or so, or 2021, I should say. So I'm behind on
So how come it took you 2 weeks to get back into it?
it. Mrs. Stokes, what's been your experience with trying to get your BCE ID reset when it
First
fails?
of all, I don't have one.
All right.
Second of all,
The last time you tried to get in.
this isn't a result of the fact that we tried to use yours while you were away, is it?
No, because I was able to get in. I started working on the report,
Oh,
and then I went to go back in the next day, and it just sat there and spun.
Yeah, and right now,
It took you 2 weeks to do that, to get it back on?
you have to
Yeah,
wait for the government to reset the password.
Yeah, the provincial reps have to.
It's not us
I
that
have the BCEID. I haven't, and I've been locked out, and it's only taken 24 hours for me to reset it.
Never had it done that quick. And it's this is probably the third or fourth time at least that I've been locked out of that account for a technical issue. It just happens. It's just a technical glitch. So I have been keeping the province in the loop as this all goes on. I sent the director of oh geez, what's his title again? Kevin. Anyways, an email today saying, yeah, I got back in and I worked on it today, and I assured him that it'd be done by the end of the week.
I'd really like an email on that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But you're out of it now? You're in it?
I'm back in, and like I say, I sent an apology letter to the director saying, yeah, sorry, I'll have it to you by the end of this week.
We don't get a fine or anything for it? And the action items. And we haven't heard from Northwinds or anything, Chris?
Nothing but crickets, your worship. Oh, speaking of Northwinds, thank you for bringing that up. I did go and inspect the site the other day. Their fence has fallen down again, so I'll
You
reach.
didn't go on the property?
No, I viewed it from the parking lot of the Peace Energy Lodge. So, yeah, and a big portion of the fences has fallen over, so.
And did they respond to you when you?
The last time we did, yeah, they responded quite quickly to get that put up. So-
Did you email them?
No,
You
it
spotted
just,
that?
you bring it up, just refresh my memory here, so I'll add that to my list to do tomorrow.
All in favor? And the grant for the fire? Sandy? So is that the one for the building?
No, this is just the continuous ones that our grant writer's always looking for us. The other one, I don't think we've heard anything yet.
So what's this UBC grant fire completed, what is that?
That was something that council had asked for back in November, December, for the grant writer to look into grants through BCM, and he's constantly looking for them.
And NDIT grants. And then the property maintenance, 588 property standards and glasses, 108, 1008. How are we making out on that?
We're hoping to bring that back a week. We have a little bit of a thinner agenda because we're expecting some discussion on it first.
Okay. And is there anything new in the school?
No,
Did they change the flags?
I don't know.
And the policy to fly on flags? I would just like to give my respects to Winley and Kelly, because Don Kelly passed away. So, since we can't lower the flags, how's that policy going?
So not necessarily, Your Worship. The village, I believe, is at liberty to lower the Village of Pooskookie flag.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
I thought you gave me an email stating that we weren't allowed to.
The federal and provincial flags have their own rules around them. Those aren't our flags.
But we still need a policy because Councillor Smith requested one.
Well, it would be best, yeah.
Well, we had Herb Nodes pass away, and a long-time resident, and I felt we better not do that because, once again, it'll be turned down,
Yeah, understood.
or nobody answers their emails.
And Mrs. Stokes, I don't see that on, oh yeah, sorry, there it is, yep.
PC joint use agreement. How was that? That was sent to the lawyers?
No, not yet, Your Worship, that one's still outstanding.
When did we send it to the lawyer?
Did we? No, not yet.
So on February 28th, we asked. Okay. It was targeted date. When did we ask for this, Sandy?
March 17th.
March 17th, we asked if this could go to the lawyer. And it's, well, now what? Could you make that?
Okay.
Can I get a motion that we get this sent? All in favor? All in favor?
What is it?
The joint use agreement for the school?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's important to have that. All in favor? Need a policy to acknowledge Treaty 8 territory? How's that? Still on the waiting list?
Ongoing, Your Worship, we are unable to find an example of it at this time, and we're still looking.
And we can't have a county meeting until we have full council. Okay. How's this feasible study date drainage thing going, Chris? This feasible study drainage, did we get somebody to,
Nope, because until today it was an unapproved budget item, so now the council's fully
but do
approved
we
the budget.
have somebody in line for all these things?
Yeah, it's likely gonna be our engineering firm. You know, so
Okay.
somebody that knows the lay of the land in our infrastructure.
Oh, that's good, they're doing a CAT program again.
Yep,
How's the boys like the John Deere tractor?
the new one's a Kubota.
Yeah.
They love it. They say it's a little stiff because it's brand new, but aside from that, the director showed me pictures there today, and it's a welcome addition to the fleet. So thanks for
Oh,
council
lucky
for
little
that.
boys.
Yeah, yeah, they're quite happy with it.
Videos done.
Haven't turned on the mower yet, but that's coming in the next couple of weeks.
Back to the tourism video, Sandy, can you tell me if all council voted anonymously on that?
Remember off the top of my head.
Can you bring that back to me, please?
Your Worship, sorry, could you rephrase that question?
The tourism video,
Yeah,
I've been accused of, being the only one for the guy that got the video.
okay.
So, I'm just wondering if everybody voted on it or not.
Oh, I see, sorry, I heard if everybody voted anonymously, and I was just gonna
Anonymous, yeah.
respectfully say that was debated and discussed and voted on in an open budget meeting, so there was no anonymity to it, it's a,
Well, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
squawk a rumor because
yeah,
that's being talked around at the village that I got him the money.
okay?
And I was the one that paid him, so.
Okay, so I think the appropriate way to respond to that to the public would be all budget items that are on the capital and special project plan were approved by majority of council in some capacity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. The residents know, because they do watch the video.
And whether that was 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 or whatever it is, if it's on this list, we went through it in 2 separate occasions in a public meeting, and there was enough of a majority to continue the item on that agenda. Or on the budget item, yeah.
Can you also tell me if it's conflict of interest, do I get up and go out of the room? When it's a conflict of interest when we're hiring somebody to do work?
When we're hiring somebody
To do work? Like if we have 3 items on the bid,
Okay.
do I get up and walk out of the room, or do I sit here if I know that person on the bid?
If you know that person, then there's either a personal or a business relationship there, yeah, it's best to declare a conflict. Best practice is to
And have I?
leave the room. Is there a specific instance you're referring to?
No, I think I go every time we have a contractor that I know, I've left the room.
To my recollection, yes, you're forthcoming in having or mentioning relationships with contractors and conflicts, yeah.
Okay. Professional sound system. 15,000. So what do you want us to do with this, Chris? You want us to approve it today? Or?
That was, sorry for the confusion, Your Worship. That document is part of the budget previously in the agenda, but procedurally we put it on every council agenda to make sure that you guys are kept in the loop on our progress.
We changed it though.
It's there's been,
Some changes.
well, it's generally the same format as it's been in past years, but the colors might have changed, maybe not shade of blue what you last year, but yeah, so. But yeah, now after council passed the 4th reading, and I spoke to this morning in the staff meeting, and everything on here is now good to go. We got our marching orders, we'll be going on.
Who's Park Walking Trail?
Yep.
Can they start that now? Or should they start that now if we're opening up the park?
So now, no. So reason being is the grant funding criteria again. That is a shovel-ready project. We had that analysis done by Urban a couple of years ago. We have the project plan, and a cost from a couple of years ago, so that might have gone up. But now what we want to do is find a grant for it. And we need to find a grant for it before we break ground on the trail, or the grant agency will consider it a project that started and they'll decline to fund it.
Okay, the only thing is that if we get the grant, then we have the park open and then we have to close the park down.
No, not necessarily. It's the plan we had in place, and I remember presenting it to you guys sort of loosely on a screenshot with a mouse-drawn trail, so I was off. Maybe I didn't go around the right tree versus the actual plan kind of thing, but
Yeah.
it's essentially roughly a 1 meter wide compact gravel walking trail around the circumference or the perimeter of Poos Park. See, hopefully
We got
compact
equipment
enough.
and stuff down there, do you want people down there?
Yeah, because a project like that, I mean, if, the contractor's only gonna be able to do so much trail in a day. So what we would do would likely be rope off certain sections and just put up, section closed. The remainder of the park could stay wide open, but if the contractor's working on a trail sort of, I'm gonna start at point A and I'm gonna finish at point B, it might take them a month to get around all of that distance. There's no reason to close the riverside area of the park if they're digging trail over by the trees and the highway. That can stay well open. So we'd make sure that in a project like that the public had as much access as possible without, any risk for the project.
Well, that's wonderful. And we have the calendar.
Happy Mother's Day, Sandy.
Hi, Marlon. So is there any other meetings you have, you guys? None?
Nope.
I have a Parks meeting tomorrow.
Parks.
And I know, pardon me, region.
Regional Parks.
Of my report.
Okay, counselors, that reports. 13.1, Counselor Smith.
Regional district, at the last regional district, the agreement with the 7 fire departments it was rescinded for 1 year and put back on the floor, and it is a 5-year agreement. And that impacts the village too, so I'm bringing that forward.
And who are the fire departments that are involved in the contract?
It's Eris, Toms Lake, Dawson, Poos. I've got
Kelly Lake.
Kelly Lake,
I believe Chetland's there too.
Chetland, yeah.
Just because I'm sure Marlene doesn't want to know. Do you know? All the fire departments that are in? Anything else?
No.
Counselor Hubert?
No.
Mayor McKinney? Nope. In camera per section, 91, a community charter is none, rising, a report, stuff when we don't ever come up with rising reports because we've had a lot of in-camera meetings.
The rising report to go on the minutes, not on the agenda.
On the agenda.
Yeah, it's usually on the meeting.
No, we've never had one. Never,
Yeah,
no?
yeah, usually.
16 adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
So you said we're